In the prior section, we looked at model code, and now we turn our attention to controller code. Now, one of the goals of the controller is to access the database and gather variables or store data in variables and then present that back through locals to the view. We'll give plenty of examples of returning variables through locals in this lesson. Another theme with controllers is matching use cases or major features of an application with controller methods. And we'll see that. Examples include viewing products, adding to a cart, posting products, viewing my posts, updating posts, or managing a profile. These are some of the examples and the use cases we'll see of the functionality of the application, which match directly with our controller code. We're on our main edit page within our farm application, and we're in the controller section, and we can see two controllers, products and profile. And within this same page, we can see all of the methods, and we'll go ahead and drill down and look at these specific methods and the code within these controllers. Now, within our products controller is our view page, and our view page is the main page that customers come to view all the available products. Now, this page shows all active products, other data from the products table, as well as who posted the data. So let's go ahead and look at the controller code and see how this data is being extracted and then made available to the view through locals. So here I am in a method called view, which is within the products controller. First, we build a user dictionary. We loop through all users and build key value pairs with the ID number and the first and last name. Then we look at rows. We want to return all active products and with the most recent on top. So when we display our view, we can see all the product information, and we can also, through the dictionary, see who posted the product. Next, let's take a look at our Post a Product page. We have all the product information, all the fields are available here, but some of them are preloaded, and those are loaded from the profile. So let's go ahead and take a look at the controller code and see how we build this page. Now, as a reminder, our controller is only responsible for getting the data from the database or whatever its source is or the business rules, and then presenting it back through locals. It's not responsible for formatting the code, and we're going to be looking at formatting the code or formatting the display much more in the next section. Now here's our controller code, the method post, and the first thing we can look at is we have an authorize here, and ideally we would actually limit this to membership to perhaps farmers or those who can post, but in this case I've limited it only to those who can log in. But once you log in and you can access this page, the first thing we do is get the information from the profile. So we get the most recent profile information of the logged on user, and we save those values into the form. Now the SQL form is a powerful object in Web2PY, and it does our insert for us. Next, let's look at the method myPost. The goal of myPost is to return all of the records or all of the posts that the authorized user has made. We sort it based on status, so active first, and the most recent on top. Now all of these records are stored in a variable called rows and returned back to the view. So here's the view of myPost, and the whole goal here is to allow a link or form where I can access update, so I can update a specific product at any time. So on our update page, notice we're passing in the URL the ID number of the product we're trying to update. Now that loads this form through a SQL form object that automatically builds and renders an update page for us with full data validation. So let's take a look at the update method in our controller code. Now the first few lines of code are for security purposes. I have a boolean is valid and I set that to false. And the reason is I want to verify that I'm trying to update a record in which I created. So I pull from the database a row that's based on the argument or the ID that we pass in the URL, and then I loop through that row and make sure that the created by record matches the logged on user through the session ID. So if you pass the security test, then you can go ahead and update the form through the SQL form object. Next, let's look at the process method, and before we do that, let's take a look at the view. Here's the view from the main ordering page, and you have the option to add to cart a specific quantity. And now let's look at the code that actually processes add to cart. Not all of this functionality is built, but it's enough to understand the core concepts. So let's look at the code. We're starting with our proc method within our controller. First, we build a product dictionary. The product ID is stored as a foreign key in the orders table, but we don't want to see the ID in the cart. We want to see the product name, and we use a dictionary for the join. Next, we create a variable called dateOrdered. We build that off the timestamp. We get the quantity from the form, and then we get the other variables, and we insert it using a SQL statement into the database. Now, once we've inserted it, we pull the rows back and return it to local so we can display the cart contents back to the user. Now, here's the actual contents of the cart. As a user adds items to the cart, we can see the quantity and the name of the product. Now, there's options to delete or remove an item from the cart, to continue shopping, and to check out. But those features are not built, but we built enough to get an idea of the core concepts. Finally, we can look at the save method within the profile controller. Now, the profile, the main idea is to store these values, which infrequently change, into the database. And when you create a post, it will automatically load that data from your most recent profile. So we get the most recent profile information for the logged on user, and then we loop through that, taking only the first record and storing it into the form. If the user wants to update that information, they can make the changes on the screen, and then the SQL form object will automatically update it or insert it with the latest profile changes. So that's a quick summary of our controller code. Again, the main idea with the controller is to gather information from our business object or from the database and present that data back through locals to the view. In the next section, we'll be looking at view code, where our primary focus is formatting on the screen how the display is going to be to the user.